Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, so it's Saturday. I hope everybody's having a good Saturday. If you're watching this on a Saturday, if on a rerun, even better. Hope you're still having a good one. So today I wanted to talk about being fired. Have I ever been fired, and what has it done for me? So I guess I had my first job at 15. It was at a math and reading place called Kumon Math and Reading, and what I did there was basically grade the papers of the other kids who were kind of my age still. You know, I just graded I went through the booklet, I checked their answers, made sure everything was thorough. Then I would record it and log it in and log their progress in also in the same packet. Then we would go doing packet after packet, checking work after work, and that was the job. It was pretty simple. You know, I got paid like what, I think $6.25 an hour or something like that. This was in 1998 or something like that, maybe roughly around that time, 98, 99, somewhere near there. So I didn't get fired from there, but when I turned, what was I, maybe 17? Yeah, when I turned 17 in the summer, I got this job at the Oakland airport being a skycap. And what a skycap does is they check your luggage either at the curb, or they pick up elderly passengers who can't walk anymore at the you know, where the airplane pulls into the docking stations, the boarding stations, the terminals. In each terminal, you know, at each gate, yes, at the gate, we would wait there in our wheelchairs, and whoever needed a wheelchair would either hop in, or if they had somebody scheduled to come then, and they would hop on, and then we would take them down to the baggage claim if they had luggage down there, or we would take them to the curb and wait for their family to come, and then we would wait for them, and then, you know, we might get a tip, might just get a thank you. So I started doing that, and that kind of helped me build up on how to talk to people. That job, it forces you to be social if you want to get a good tip. So what I would do is start striking up conversations, just ask them how they're doing. Sometimes that's all a person needs, and you pull that lawnmower cord and they just run, and they just go on and on and on. You know, they might let you back in the conversation, and you'll go back and forth, or you might just listen to them for the most part. You're kind of just like a 5-10-minute psychiatrist, which kind of also is funny because it reminded me of being a Lyft and Uber driver when I was a Lyft and Uber driver. But that job, as time went by, I guess I was there for maybe 3 years at this point, and they decided to bump me up to upgrade me down to curb checking. And curb checking is where they made the most money. I made tip money. I did like maybe 40, 60, 80 on a good day. And there was a time where I was waiting to get my first $100 tip, and everybody else was getting one and killing it. And I just was like, oh man, I hope I can get a $100 tip one day. And I finally got one. And once I got one $100 tip, it's like they just kept coming. Not every day, not all the time, but they were a little more consistent than they were when I was waiting on it. So I was doing fine on the wheelchairs. And then I kind of saw the curb as a threat because it was a little more fast-paced. It seemed like people got fired easier working on the curb. And I think they first started me off on the curb doing the bag runs. And you would come out with your cart, you would load up the bags that the other guys checked in, and you would take them to the conveyor belt, and you would put them on the conveyor belt. That was my first job on the curb experience. That was my first job on the curb experience. Then I guess other people were passing me up, and I don't know if people started to feel sorry for me, and they were like, hey, he's been here for a while, man, just give him a chance, put him on the curb. So they finally put me on the curb, and then after I got showed the ropes, I was just in it, going, boom, bop. I think you would average maybe $200 a day on the curb, because people would come in, they would check their luggage, and it would just go up. They would either go inside and check their luggage, or they would go to you guys, because you guys were considered quicker check-in people. And I would get nice tips, and then other people would see the people tipping, so they knew what the system was. Some people wouldn't tip, but a lot of people caught on and they would tip, and they knew that, okay, they're working fast, so let me give them a tip. So I was doing that. I was cruising, started making 300, 400 a day. I think I worked in the summer, I worked more days, but during school time, I would only work on the weekends. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I was enjoying that job. I bought my first car with that tip money, and I was doing okay. Problems started to come when, or the problem came when I think I got in. I was friends with a lot of the girls that worked there. I was, they were just cool. I would walk with them, talk with them. They was cool people. There was one girl in particular that her boyfriend worked on the curb, and he was a supervisor. And people were telling me, hey man, what's name's kind of iffy on you hanging out with his girl all the time. So I really didn't pay much attention to it. Seemed like he was starting to get a little more snappy with me. He would send me up to the gates more often. And I'm reaching here on what I'm thinking was the probable cause. So he would be like little stuff. I was always an even peeled dude, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. Fast track to one day where we were checking people in, and this is a little time after 9/11 hit. I'm checking people in. There was a long line. I guess they set up a structure where a certain person will pull people's rank if they were running late. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then this one guy said, hey man, I'll give you so amount of money if you check me in right now. And I was like, please refer it down to the other guy down the way. And then one of the other guys, I thought that was cool with me, he gonna say, hey man, you gonna pass that guy up? So you should take him. And I was kind of like, I was kind of iffy about it, but he was like, hey, you should take him. So I took him, I checked him in, and I checked him in at another computer, set him up, got him on the plane, thought everything was good. And then I guess, I don't know what happened next. They said, well, you weren't supposed to check him in because there was a certain person assigned to check in people that were running late. So we're gonna have to suspend you for a couple of days. And first I was like, all right, I guess. I didn't really think it was a big deal. I was still, keeping the line moving, keeping the line running. People were going fast and whatnot. So I get suspended for a couple of days, come back, and I'm thinking I'm about to be reinstated and whatnot. And then the same guy that I told you guys earlier said, well, we reviewed everything and we took it up to Southwest and told them what happens, and they determined that you should no longer be able to work here anymore. So I was like, oh. So I got fired because of checking someone in that wasn't in line. But his plane was running late, but because there was a assigned person scheduled to do that. And I guess, I don't know, maybe I was holding up the line front because I checked that one guy in. It was real quick. So that was the first time I got fired. It was 2003. Yeah, it was 2003. And, young kid, still stayed with my parents. I did a little low-level job at the Berkeley campus being security for the baseball games. I mean, not baseball games, for their basketball games. UC Cal. Well, Cal Berkeley. Yeah, I did the basketball games at Cal Berkeley, and for a little while, and then I finally landed a job at FedEx, which I think I told you guys I was working there for about 4 years. So that was the one time I got fired. The other time I may have gotten fired was me and this other guy were doing, we were temp laborers. We were from a temp agency. We were crushing a job at an army base where we just cleaned up stoves and stuff. And it was always temporary. It was always a temporary job, but the other guy was on his phone. I was on my phone too, but I was working diligently. So they let us both go. And I even talked to the guy. He said, well, you were actually okay, but it was the other guy that was killing it really bad. So that's why we had to let both of you guys go, because you kind of both were on the same docket ticket. So being fired, it catches you off guard. It throws you out your game a little bit, but it's a humbling experience if you can take it the right way. I think I took it the right way. You know, I've always say improvise, adapt, overcome, or I've been taught that. I was taught that by my pastor. You improvise, you adapt, overcome, and it's also it's an army term. In life you improvise, in life you adapt, in life you overcome. So you don't let those things like that hold you back. I don't let things like that. I like to speak from my own reference. You know, I can't stand when people try to tell you, hey man, this is what you do. This is, you gotta do this, gotta do that. No, I learned to improvise. I learned to adapt. I learned to overcome, because I see that there's always potential to keep going. There's always a way of escape. There's always something else you can do. Even when I was working at the temp agency and it was slow, like they weren't really sending us out to work, I got on my phone, I looked at other temp agencies in the area, I signed up with them, and I ended up getting a job that I worked for 3 more years, and I was doing deliveries. And it was a good job because we delivered to a lot of high-end people, and they paid nice tips. So I would leave home with money unreported under the table, basically, from tips, and I would also have my hourly pay. So I was doing quite well back then, in that time, with that job, at the time frame. Now I think I make more money doing what I do with deliveries. But there's always a lesson in these things. To me, you know, the lesson was to improvise, and the lesson was to adapt and overcome these obstacles and just keep going. No matter what, keep going. For me, I'm talking to myself. You gotta keep going. But if this resonates with somebody else, then yes, please keep going. Well, no matter what, keep going. So what if it's ugly? So what if it don't look pretty? Keep going. Just see what you can get. And I saw what I got. I keep on saying that, turning it to one of those sermons. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I saw what I got with the results of keep going. That's all I have to say. That's my message for today. Or that's my statement for today. That's my story for today. Hope you guys like it. If you guys can, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It would be cool. I like these blogs. They're also therapeutic, and I feel, from what I've heard, is you know, people like to hear someone just talking, and it's calming, it's relaxing, it's not a big deal. I'm sorry my voice isn't the best, but I keep going. It's my voice. I'm gonna have to live with it. I gotta work with it. I always want to talk smoother, like some jazz musician man, but you know that's not me. So I use my voice and I talk the way I talk. That's that, and that's the way it is, and that's okay. So all right, you guys have a good one.